Welcome everyone to the April 8th, 2019 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners. Chief Balzer, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm Barb Lewis, President. To my left, our Vice President, Jeff Benton. To my right is Commissioner Gary Merrill, our Administrator, Mike Fromer, and our Clerk, Jen Walraven. We can begin.
Resolution number 19-296, in the matter of approving electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held April 4th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-296. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We do not have any public comment today, so that brings us to item number 3, resolution number 19-297, in the matter of approving purchase orders and now certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CMAPR 0405.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-297. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-298, in the matter of approving travel expense requests.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-298. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-299, in the matter of a new liquor license request from Center Village Incorporated, forwarding to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control with no objections and no request for a hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Vote on motion 19-299. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-300, in the matter of approving an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the Delaware County Board of Commissioners, the Delaware County Automatic Data Processing Board, and the Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
You-
Do we have discussion?
He was here, so I thought maybe.
Oh, okay, sure.
Scott Stevens, the District Administrator for the SWCD. I'm happy to answer any questions, but if they're of a technical nature, I'll defer to the experts.
I have no
Anything? No? Okay.
Yeah.
We're very appreciative of the assistance. We're using the web host, and this is just kind of an extension moving forward with that, kind of integrate. We'll be in the Bixby campus, all part of the move. So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Thanks, Scott. Vote.
Vote on motion 19-300. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-301, in the matter of authorizing participation in the Ohio Local Agricultural Easement Purchase Program from Teresa Watkins.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Scott Stevens again with the Delaware SWCD. This is a repeat since we've been doing since 2016 to participate with ODA as local sponsor in the Farmland Preservation Program.
Any questions? Discussion? Vote.
Vote on motion 19-301. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-302, in the matter of authorizing participation in the Ohio Local Agricultural Purchase Program from Gary L. and Yvonne G. Newhouse.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Happy to answer any questions about the farm or Mr. Newhouse and his family. They have several parcels that they've been very active. One of the parties that come to us in 2016 and wanted to be able to participate. So,
You got,
I'm sorry.
yes.
I was going to say, you've got four landowners
Yes.
going into the program this year.
Yes, yeah.
And that's about what you've been running over the last few years.
Yeah, we've been 3 to 6. We had several last year, and they've all been pretty consistent, though. I mean, it's just with this local sponsor model and the way the Clean Ohio funds are allocated amongst the local sponsors, we will certainly have funds allocated to make that, to enter into that agreement, and they'll just continue to vie, looking for that the high score of the accepted parcels.
We're not likely to have enough money for all. There's not likely to be enough
I
money for all. based on
don't think
past
we
track
probably
record.
would this year. There's a little bit of an unknown as there's 37, 38 local sponsors across the state. There may be some crumbs, some additional money come in like we had last year. It was pretty big pretty big chunk, is about 110,000. Whether that'll happen again this year, if it were, we might be able to get them all in this year, but it's way too soon to tell. Excuse me.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-302. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-303, in the matter of authorizing participation in the Ohio Local Agricultural Easement Program from STB3 LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This will be a new applicant. It's on Todd Street Road, so still one of our very rural agricultural areas in the county. Discussion with the township trustees, and everybody's on board with kind of this new area, we'll say. So.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-303. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-304, in the matter of authorizing participation in the Ohio Local Agricultural Easement Purchase Program from Robert J. Sherman, trustee.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
And
Oh,
repeat customer, it's the
Yeah.
Sherman family. Commissioner
Yes.
Lewis visited the farm there, so they're very committed to this and excited about the opportunity.
Great. Vote?
Vote on motion 19-304. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-305, in the matter of approving the 2019 Local Agricultural Easement Purchase Program Cooperative Agreement between the Ohio Department of Agriculture and the Delaware County Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
No, same.
This,
All right.
this 338 is what is allocated right now for the 2019
Correct.
program, so
Correct.
it may go up a little bit.
It could.
If-
It could. It won't go down. We certainly wouldn't have less. And if we end up in a couple of years, we don't actually receive the funds, but if we don't spend it all, then that'll go to another local sponsor to try to make one of the other applicants out across the state. The ODA, or total program, they're receiving 65 or 70 applications across the state of Ohio from, like, say, about 36, 37 local sponsors. So we're all at this same point right now, so how that money gets shifted around and what extra money may come or what we may send, you just don't know at this point.
And how does this compare to prior years? It's about what we've been getting in prior years.
We've inched up over the first few years. I think the first year in 16, it was like 270,000. As we show the ability to spend full funds, we're kind of fortunate. Our parcels are a little smaller than others, so that at the state cap at $2,000 an acre, we'll get more farms in just because our acreage is less, whereas the larger parcels, like say Dark or Mercer County, something like that, they get a 150-acre farm, then that 330,000 doesn't go as far. So we have more applicants actually get in process than what others may. But again, every year's a little different. You just complete throw of the dice at this point, how that shakes out.
There may be more parcels, but the footprint will be roughly the same because
That's
it's
right.
2008.
Yeah, the Clean Ohio funds, it's been between $6 and $8 million, depending on bond sales for many years now. So that's been statewide. That's about the annual allocation.
One of the things with this program, one of the only negatives I've heard is that it's undermanned at the state agricultural level.
Very much so.
Any prospect there of maybe talking to
I think it's a
agriculture?
real good possibility. New governor in place,
Yeah.
and
And
we were
Dorothy
able to
Polanda.
meet. Yeah, Director Polanda, the new director of the Department of Agriculture, actually visited the county last Friday. Commissioner Benton was able to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't kind of retool some things at this point on how this works, because it is a tremendous backlog. We're still working to close one of our 2016 easements, the last of those first two. And the 2017, we've not gotten, that title search has been done for 2 years now and just haven't had review. They have one legal staff down there. They're doing 70 applications a year. I mean, I understand the time, but if we want to speed it up, you got to commit more resources to it.
Right. Was that brought up at all with,
I don't believe
Director
not at our session, but I know it has at
Okay,
other listening
okay.
sessions that Director Polanda has attended.
oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
These easements will have the same protections built in as far as
Yes.
easements for infrastructure.
Yes, we have an MOU that runs parallel to the the actual easement language, the agreement with the landowners. That'll be in place forevermore, along with its recorded document. And
Yeah, I don't ask that question every time.
I
I
know,
trust
but-
the process,
It
because
is
that was
important.
important, that it be set up that way to protect all landowners.
that's right, absolutely.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-305, Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
And that brings us to page 43. Resolution number 19-306, in the matter of approving a supplemental appropriation for the Delaware County Board of Developmental Disability.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jared Zarella with Delaware County Board of DD. This supplemental appropriation is for Capital Improvements Fund, and it is for the carpet replacement that we're about to receive. So we had some carpet that was under warranty, and this is the cover of the carpet that was not under warranty.
Oh, okay.
We say supplemental appropriate, we're just talking about moving around, money around in your budget? Is that what we're
Opening it up inside of the capital improvement budget. Yeah, there was no money allocated for it during the budget because we didn't know that the carpet was going to cost us after the warranty.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-306, Mr. Merrill?
talking? Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 19-307, in the matter of approving estimate, bid specifications, and setting bid opening date and time for the project known as the Delaware County Historic Courthouse Project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Good morning, John Melvin, Director of Facilities. Schooley Caldwell and Associates have completed all the plans and specifications for the renovations to the historic courthouse, and we're ready to go out to bid. I just want to make note, this will be the first bid that the Facilities Office will be using online bid through Bid Express. It's the same company that Engineers Office has been using for a couple of years, and it's been working well for them.
Right.
And I understand the total cost of the project, including all the other costs, is about $9.6 million.
That's what we're looking at right now. That's what the bid estimate for the actual construction cost at, about $8.1 million.
Okay.
Okay, vote.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
That includes the renovations of the front of the building too?
Yes, all the site renovations, the total cost, that's including design fees, permit fees. We've had, we're already spent little monies on, some asbestos studies, as well as the furniture to outfit the building once we're completed renovating it.
Should be noted, part of this is to improve the looks of the building for the benefit of the veterans and
Yeah.
statues and everything around front to make it more presentable, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I think it's really to revitalize and rededicate the whole Veterans Plaza in the front of the building. There'll be very little you'll notice on the outside of the building. We'll be cleaning up, repairing some windows and the masonry tuck pointing. The biggest noticeable outside improvement will be removing that iron fire escape from the north side of the building. But yeah, the real noticeable improvement will be that front lawn. Really rededicate that for veterans memorials.
What's the timeline on this then, John? What would you say?
We don't have a definitive schedule yet. We're still anticipating about 12 months construction time.
12 months from today?
Contract award, which is, we're probably, 6 weeks out. We're probably a little bit more, 8 weeks out from that.
Try.
8 weeks out, okay, from that.
A little
Okay.
humor there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, okay. The front of the building looks great as far as just the design that
Yes.
we've seen. Boy,
The presentation of the front is much more of a,
yes, it's,
much more knowledge of what our veterans have contributed, and just the look is going to be so much
Yes.
better and so much improved, and really going to restore the grandeur of the building once we can re-enter from the front of the building rather than what we've had to do from the back because of security.
And it should be important to note, this is a major renovation of the historic building. All new mechanical systems in there. We're actually going to add sprinklers to the building to help protect it. And Schooley Caldwell has made efforts to try to tie back some ties to the original construction of the building. We're going to open up that on the west end of the building. What used to be the original courtroom was 2 stories. At some point, I think early 80s, that 3rd floor was put in there. We're going to open it up so that 2-story glass, stained glass windows will be kind of exposed above the,
Oh,
what
great.
will be the commissioner's hearing room.
great. Okay, any other? Vote.
Vote on motion 19-307, Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-308, in the matter of awarding the bids and approving the agricultural cash leases between the Board of Commissioners of Delaware County and Justin Veers for farmland on Lewis Center Road and Sam Botter and Scott Botter for farmland on Sawmill Road.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
These are two farm parcels that the engineer's office managed in the past. The one is anticipated for the extension of Home Road, and the other one is as a result of Sawmill Parkway, lack of better terms. So we bid it out. We did receive 2 bids for both properties, and these 2 were the high bidders on the individual parcels.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-308, Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Resolution number 19-309, in the matter of approving amendment number 1 to the sanitary sewer subdividers agreement for Shelley's Retreat at Carpenter Mills, Section 1, Phase A.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Morning, Commissioners. Tiffany Mag, Director of Environmental Services. This is an amendment to the subdividers agreement for a development that's located along Stites Road, just north of Rutherford Road. There's over 90 homes in this subdivision, but the purpose of this amendment is just to allow the model home to connect in before the pump station is completed. And we do anticipate that pump station to be up and running within the next month or probably maybe 6 weeks at the latest. So we request your approval.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-309, Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye. Thank you, Tiffany.
Resolution number 19-310, in the matter of approving a contract between the Village of Shawnee Hills, the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, and the Delaware County Board of Commissioners regarding inmate housing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Jeff Balzer, Chief Deputy with the Sheriff's Office, and with me this morning is Chief Russ Barron from the Shawnee Hills Police Department. What we've come to is the Ohio Revised Code allows the sheriff to house inmates in the jail if they're charged under municipal ordinances, if we have a contract. We have not had that contract previously. Chief Barron talked with his village council, and they would like to occasionally be able to house prisoners in our jail who are cited under the village ordinances. This contract will allow them to do so.
Okay. Question? Vote.
Vote on motion 19-310, Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Thank you, Chiefs.
Thanks.
Resolution number 19-311, in the matter of approving a contract and addendum between the Delaware County Board of Commissioners, the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, and Stanley Convergent Solutions for CCTV upgrades and repairs.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Morning, Commissioners. Jeff Balzer with the Sheriff's Office. We're looking to upgrade our video system. It's been a number of years since this system has been installed, and it's sorely in need of upgrade. This would allow not only the overall system to be upgraded, but also some of the individual cameras to replace and upgrade the cameras as well. This was part of our 2019 budget request also.
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 19-311. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Resolution number 19-312, in the matter of authorizing the purchase of pickup trucks for the County Engineer's Office.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. We had in our budget request to purchase 5 replacement pickup trucks. 4 of these are half-ton pickup trucks. They'll be Dodge Ram models, and then there's a Ford 1-ton pickup truck that will be used in our operations fleet. So we are, again, asking for your approval of this purchase.
And question I ask generally is, in these, there'll be 5 going out of the service as well? to
There will
replace it?
be, yes, yes.
Okay.
Vote.
Vote on motion 19-312. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-313, in the matter of approving ditch maintenance petition and ditch maintenance assessments for Warren Family Funeral Homes Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This parcel is located off of Brewster Lane in Liberty Township. This would place the drainage improvements on the county's drainage maintenance program and then assess the cost to that individual lot.
Vote.
Vote on motion 19-313. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-314, in the matter of approving right-of-way work permit summary sheet.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
We just had 2 routine utility permits and recommending your approval.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-314. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-315, in the matter of approving a grant of funds to the Delaware County Transportation Improvement District.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
In the budget discussion last fall, you may recall we proposed providing for a $400,000 grant to the TID. This would be in addition to $400,000 that we provide in this in our budget for state and federal project grant matching, our grant enhancement program. So we have a total of $800,000 budgeted for grants associated with transportation projects. This would allocate or provide $400,000 of that to the TID for various projects that the TID will be undertaking, not specifically for any certain projects, but kind of where the TID goes about taking on projects with private development and so forth.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-315. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number 19-316, in the matter of amending resolution numbers 12-1403 and 17-1387 to revise capital project funds established in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 5705.13.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Hello, Brad Lutz, Director of Business Operations. What we have here are two resolutions to come in compliance with ORC 570513, which is the ORC that the two capital funds that are discussed here, Fund 417 and 420, were organized under originally. This will be part of an ongoing annual resolution that we will do to define, and actually, if you were to turn to page 60, the second whereas really defines what we're doing here. For these capital funds, we need to identify the source of money, the assets that are being improved, the amount of money accumulated, and the period of time for which that money would be accumulated for each of these funds on an annual basis. We haven't been doing this previously. Like I said, this is not anything more than just remaining in compliance with 5705.13 and does not obligate us to spend these monies on specific capital projects, just indicates that we'll be spending it on these general capital projects, which once again are listed in here, things like improvements to buildings, vehicles, and such. Once again, we will be doing this on an annual basis, more likely in December, about the time that you pass the budget. We'll end up passing this resolution again, amending the resolutions, rescinding the previous ones, and doing new ones.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-316. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-317, in the matter of approving supplemental appropriations for the Board of Elections.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So Eric, as he is apt to do, is very comprehensive in his work, and when he was going over the contract for the Board of Elections, which I believe is on the agenda next or coming right after this, noted that the funds specified to be spent on the Board of Elections machines, the county's portion that is, was designated as to be spent from the general fund. We had transferred the money at the end of 2018 into the capital fund. It was determined that to transfer the money back to the general fund would be problematic. To change the contract to say that the money would be spent from the capital fund would be also problematic. That the simplest solution was to pay for the funds from the general fund, leaving the money that was initially transferred into the capital fund in the capital fund, and considering that money a prepayment, if you will, on capital projects to be spent at a later time, which the previous resolution you just approved designates appropriately. So you could just consider it pre-funding your 2020 and beyond capital projects. To be perfectly honest, I don't think, especially with our more significant infrastructure projects moving forward, that we'll have any problem spending the $1.9 million in those funds in the designated period of time as indicated in that previous resolution you approved. So this supplemental appropriation will allow us to spend the $1.991568 million from the general fund as opposed to the capital fund for the Board of Elections machines.
Question, there's no reason to wait on this till after we discuss the Board of Elections? It doesn't change anything, it's just kind of house cleaning as much as anything?
I would recommend that you adopt this before you approve the agreement,
Okay. Vote?
Vote on motion 19-317. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
And if I could, just really quick, John, if you could come up here just real quick and give the commissioners an update on the enterprise vehicles since they're just started delivery.
Actually, we actually took our first delivery of an enterprise vehicle Friday, the van for veteran services. We have scheduled 3 more mid-sized sedans coming in this week, as well as a van for juvenile court. So we are starting that program. We're taking delivery. So.
All right. Thank you.
And the other vehicles are coming out of service?
Yes, we're going to start that process. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Brad.
Resolution number 19-318, authorizing participation in a sublease purchase arrangement with the Ohio Secretary of State for the purpose of acquiring and implementing voting machines and equipment and financing certain costs thereof, a sublease purchase agreement, evidence to such arrangement, and matters related thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Christopher Betts, Acting Prosecuting Attorney for Delaware County, Ohio. This is in anticipation of the purchase of the voting equipment for the Board of Elections. Last year, the Ohio Legislature passed Senate Bill 135, which provided funding for the local counties to purchase new voting equipment. This resolution and the accompanying agreement that's approved as a part of this resolution allow for the county to participate in the state funding program so that we can tap those state funds and pay for the state portion of the equipment. This is a requirement of the Secretary of State. This particular resolution and the accompanying sublease agreement both come from the Secretary of State's office and are required to tap that money from the state.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak?
I think they want to speak on the equipment, which is the next resolution.
Oh, I see.
I
Okay.
was speaking first in regards to the sublease.
Just the
and
sublease
resolution.
portion.
But I'm
Okay.
happy to answer any questions about that.
Sure. Any
Should we divide
questions?
them up, or should?
The resolution before you right now was mandated by the state. That's why it's separate.
Okay.
I'm told specifically not to change a thing.
Okay.
So that's why they're separate, instead of trying to combine the two.
Yes, the Secretary of State's advisory on this that gave the instructions specifically said, as Eric mentioned, that we were not allowed to change a thing in the resolution or the
Okay.
sublease agreement except fill in the blanks where we needed to fill in the blanks, which was pretty much the county name.
Looks like no amendments then. Okay.
And being it's called a sublease, that is because the state actually technically will own the equipment, and we are subleasing it from them.
That is correct. The state is actually paying for the equipment, and as a part of purchasing this, they went out and financed it. The state will own the equipment for approximately 10 years, and we'll be subleasing it from them and managing and operating that equipment.
Good.
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 19-318. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-319, in the matter of approving a master agreement for purchase of voting system with RBM Consulting LLC and the First Amendment thereto.
So move.
Second.
Discussion.
Again, Christopher Betts, Acting Prosecuting Attorney for Delaware County, Ohio. This agreement is for the purchase of the voting equipment. Again, that's what we were referencing before as being separate from the sublease agreement. This is the actual contract with the vendor. I'll let the Peg Watkins, member of the board, and Anthony Sadie, the Deputy Director of the board, speak as to the actual equipment, but the way this agreement was set up is there's a master agreement with RBM, who is the vendor on this. They act on behalf of or reseller for Unison, which is the actual manufacturer of the software and the equipment itself. But I will let the board and board staff go ahead and explain that part of it. But if there are any questions as to the agreement, I'm more than happy to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Anthony Sadie, Deputy Director at the Board of Elections.
You want to introduce yourself?
Do it together? Okay, sure. I'm Peg Watkins. I'm Vice Chair of the Board of Elections.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have maybe about the voting equipment as we got to this point so far. As you know, that we're currently installing and we're planning on running this upcoming primary election with this new equipment as kind of like a live test run. And along the way, we've come up with some things that we would like to see this voting equipment do, and the RBM and Unison have been very accommodating, yes, in putting that in there. We have a list that is in the contract itself as Exhibit 4 that addresses a lot of the issues that Carla and myself have come up along the way. And to get through this election, Unison has been able to accommodate us with some solutions in order to get things that are mandated by the state. For example, like bolding and in the ballot language matching directly with the paper to the touchscreen machines.
And I just wanted to chime in. I think the voting public doesn't see what's in the background. When we first got the machines in 2006, it was a new thing. We brought them out, demonstrated them at the fairgrounds in various locations. But over the past 12 years, these machines have deteriorated. They've been repaired. They've been replaced. They've been worked with to make sure that they could still handle our elections effectively and safely. And now this new equipment that is coming in, we expect to realize some improvements over the way elections and the machines have functioned for us in the past. But along the way, we've been working out little things to make sure that it works the way Delaware County wants it to work. But also 2 years ago, we started talking with neighboring counties so that we could try to realize cost savings. And we've done good financial stewardship with this. Marion County and Union County are buying the same type of equipment, so we expect there to be some cost savings there because we're working with the same type of equipment, the same vendor. And the way that we have worked with RBM has been in partnership. If we say we need something done a certain way, they're happy to accommodate us and try to figure out how they can make their equipment work the way we need it to work in Delaware County. So we've been pleased with that working relationship.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, vote.
Well,
Go ahead.
Understand that there's a set of, I think, 10 issues to be resolved to receive the different retainages. We've got a retainage for successful completion of the May vote, and then a retainage payment to be made in October, assuming this equipment is certified by the state, and then lastly, the November election is good. So those are the three retainages of the last $1 million, as I understand it?
Yes, that is correct. And the October one that you spoke to, that specifically refers to the Exhibit 4 in the master agreement,
okay,
which has the 10 things that we would like to see changed.
You say would like. I don't think it's would like, is it? That they need to change, correct?
Yes, that they need, that's what it's determined, that retainage is determined upon the certification of those items in Exhibit 4.
I looked through this agreement. It's a long agreement. Thank you, attorneys. And I couldn't find those 10 points. I couldn't find Exhibit 4. Can you?
Yeah, I apologize. In the master agreement that Eric has, it's like the last page in the master agreement. It should have been attached with what I sent Jennifer, but maybe I forgot to include it somehow.
Well, it could be in there, and I could.
I know it's in the ones that
it's, I think,
Eric
40
has.
or 50 pages long, and not being an attorney, I get lost in these things.
It's Eric, it looks like an Excel spreadsheet.
I don't think it's in
put in
our.
the Excel sheet.
Yeah, okay, so I wasn't blind. I wasn't, okay.
You're not going to be able to read that.
Oh, you're right.
Yes. I could, if you would like me to speak to some of the
Yeah,
issues.
if you could,
on
please.
there.
I'd like to get an understanding of what the specific issues are.
You ever can't read it.
I just wanted to mention that I tried to make that bigger, but it didn't work when we tried to expand it, so I apologize that it's so small.
There, thank you.
You know, could you go over, this is an important vote, and in fact, we're being asked to do this literally the 13th hour. I think it's important that we make sure we understand these things.
Yes, absolutely. For example, there's a couple things on here, like the manual entry of the ballot cast limitation. Currently, you're only allowed to input 5,000 votes for a candidate manually, but for the Secretary of State asks us to do these things called mock elections, where they give us several dozen thousands or like 100,000 votes for a specific contest, and we wouldn't be able to put in those test numbers. It's relatively small on the list. Ballot measure text reflow refers to if a ballot issue or measure, as they are called, were to end in one column and not fit entirely in one column on the ballot, it needs to automatically reflow and appear on the second column. Right now, there has to be some kind of manual workaround to accommodate that. And that refers to like the spacing issue in order to keep our ballot as small and short as possible. It doesn't automatically reflow to the next column. Like I spoke to earlier, the paper ballot needs to be identical to the touchscreen ballot. When we found out with this election with some bond issues in our Northridge local school district, and I think Delaware City Schools, I think, has some bolding as well. The bolding is fine on the paper ballot, but it did not translate over to the touchscreen ballot. So we had to work with Unison for a workaround for this election, that they were able to get that bolding in on the touchscreen, but in the future, we'd need that to happen automatically without any kind of intervention. And that's a thing that's mandated by the ORC. Our precinct and split information, the way that it's kind of represented in our voter registration system, does not carry over the same way in the tabulation system, which it just makes it harder on us for proofing and double checking things along the way. So we're able to work around that, but it just kind of makes a little bit more difficult for us currently.
I think this really illustrates that it's fine print. It's
yeah, a lot of these things are just technical
little
issues.
tiny
We haven't, just to clarify, we've never come up with any limitations or anything as far as the tabulation's concerned. Everything so far has tabulated correctly. Another thing on here is ability to create test decks on our own. Currently, we have to send the election kind of off to Unison, or our ballots off to Unison, and they have to mark the test decks themselves. We're just used to being able to do that ourselves. It's just another thing in the way that takes it a little bit, an extra step for us as far as testing goes.
But the agreement has worked out so that the things that need to be in place for the primary election will be in place, even if it's a workaround. And then it's good that we have this test of a primary election, which is a smaller election. It's expected to be lower turnout, because we know that Delaware County has very high levels of voter turnout, which is good. But to test a system that is this complicated and this detailed, it is really good to have a primary with a lower turnout to be able to put it to a real test, something that is not, it's not made up with Mickey Mouse candidates on the ballot. This is a live test of how the system will function.
Yeah, I don't know if we would have come up with a lot of these unless we were actually putting it through its paces right now, which is positive, you know, which is a good thing on why we wanted to do it in May as opposed to November. Turnout so far has been pretty low, so. One other thing I wanted to mention on here is the voter registration totals by party. Right now, we can only import generic voter registration totals into the tabulation system. So when we do our reporting, we want to be able to break it down by party in a primary election to show what the turnout was by party. Now that's not super relevant in there since we only have a Republican primary, but in the future, that's something that will need to be looked at as well.
I don't think you listed 10 things. Is there more?
Yeah, there's some more things on here as well.
Boy, the print is so small. I don't believe you're not using glasses. So.
I said the ballot, no, not that one. scrolling election night results. Right now, we put in our conference room like a projection of the election night results. They say that they have the capability to do that, but we just don't have that piece of software yet, but Unison said that they would supply that to us, so we should have that for May. State file mapping and creating a state file, we use that to report totals up to the state. Unison's been working on getting that handled. The state has their own precinct codes that they supply to us, and currently we have to input those manually into the Unison system in order to send those results to the state, but that'll be automated for us in the future. We've already been working with with Rob Parsons in GIS in order to get our election night results for our website. They created that module for us for the live results on our website. I think that's ready to go and in place for this upcoming election, which is exciting. Limited space on issue header text. This refers to only being able to put so much in the header itself, like where the issue title is listed. We currently have the issue title. If it's an overlap, we'll have the overlapping counties in there. And there's also a spot that says a majority affirmative vote is required for casting. We weren't able to fit that majority affirmative vote is required for casting in the rest of the header, so we had to do like a little workaround in order to put that right underneath the header. So that should be a smoother process in the future. Was that 10? And again, this is kind of a working list. Some of the things on this list have actually already been addressed, like the importing the full database. We were actually able to demonstrate that with 2016's. I was able to import 2016's election in with no problem. Some of the stuff on here is kind of a learning curve for us, and maybe we just didn't know how to do it at first, but some of these things have actually already been addressed. Another thing on here, oh yes, the font size was a pretty big one. ORC requires different issues be a specific font size. I believe it's 9 or 10 or something. 10. Yeah. Right now, the paper and the touchscreen only accommodates like up to a 6 or something. So
will that affect this election?
It would affect this election because I believe it refers to specifically the vote for totals, like vote for one candidate. But they were able to address that. There was with another workaround.
Yeah.
We're in compliance. Yeah, we're in compliance with this election, but the struggle has been just having to do these workarounds in order to get it there.
So everything as it appears to the voter will be ready in time for the May 7th primary?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And what needs to be done still is background kinds of, the kinds of work that, whereas it was automated in the past with the previous equipment and our staff did not need to work so hard to get it to report the way it needed to be reported, we're still working on getting the new system to make it easier on the staff and reduce the time it takes to do various functions.
I want to add one more thing. It's probably the biggest one on here, to be honest with you. They have a new lighter weight paper that they use as part of the ballot paper rolls. But in testing processes, we found that it's so light that the static electricity is kind of holding it into the inside of the ballot box. So we found that using an anti-static brush would fix that. However, that may alter the ballot box, so that may have to go through certification to adding that anti-static brush. So in the time being, we're planning on using a heavier stock paper, what they used to use, in order for that static to not be an issue for this election. But we hope to
wouldn't that be an issue in other elections that they had?
This paper is a completely new stock. They haven't ran any elections using it yet. They've only used the thicker paper, which is what I believe we're going to be using in this upcoming election.
So for the primary, we will use the heavier paper, but in the future, we'll change the process so that the brush is there to reduce the static electricity, and we'll be able to use the paper that they intended for.
Yeah, we don't want to put the brush on ourselves. We would like it to go through the actual certification process.
That seems a fairly simple thing that the manufacturer or somebody I assume you're going to a lot of paper, so you get more paper through because it's not quite as thick. I'm guessing, I'm speculating, I don't know.
Yeah, you can get more paper. The thicker paper kind of holds a curl to it so that you can, with the thinner paper, you can hold a lot more ballots in the receptacle.
Do you think that's a fairly simplistic thing that would have been taken care of long before it got to you?
You would think so. I can't speak to their testing facilities or how they handle it, but, you know, we've run several hundred before we came across this static issue, and it seemed to have come and then gone away, and there's really no rhyme or reason to what makes it happen. I don't know if it's something happened to the paper in the shipping process, or if it's the ballot receptacle itself. I can't really speak to it.
Any specific questions?
Are all these, these 10 items, are they, were they problems with the previous voting equipment?
No, a lot of these items are things that either never came up with the previous voting equipment, or we've gotten so used to the previous voting equipment that we already knew how to do some of the workarounds. You know, in the 12 years that we had the previous voting equipment, I don't think there was a single update to it.
But this equipment adds a very important step, and that is the paper ballot that the voter gets in their hands. So with the voting machines that you're used to, everything stayed inside that machine. It didn't nothing came out of the machine that the voter has to get in their hands and walk it over to another place to put it into a secure vessel. So, I mean, this is adding another step to an already complicated process, and so those sorts of things were not in the previous system, and they're new that we're testing out for this process. So we expect that voters will like the paper that they get to hold in their hands, but it adds a big step in the process that complicates things that did not have any testing before because they didn't exist in the previous system.
Well, you've done a lot of work on this. I know the testing has had to be very arduous over
Yeah, we've really put it through its paces.
a few weeks. That's really, which is really good because you have identified some shortcomings, I guess. My main question is then after the primary, I mean, how quickly is the vendor going to, RBM in particular, I think that's who is supposed to solve these problems. How quickly will they solve the problems?
As I said, some of these problems on here have already been addressed.
But the ones that aren't,
They plan on sitting down with us in late May, early June in order to really work out some of the details. I believe they've already submitted a lot of these fixes to the Election Assistance Commission, the federal certifying board. With a lot of these issues, but I believe they can still add to that up until like July or August or something to really, if we come up, find any more items that we would like to see added to it.
And they've been working closely with our staff. They've been in our office. Todd is here from RBM today. They've been making many trips to our office to check and make sure that machines, so that first they're trying to understand what it is we need, and then they try to make the fixes. So they've been very supportive and cooperative with us.
Okay, good. I know the certification isn't until October, but that's why, I mean, I just want these fixed long before that. Is
yes,
that
so do we. And to clarify, the certification, is my understanding, it can happen at any time.
Okay, okay.
We just said that they had to be submitted for certification by October in order for everything to be certified in time for 2020's election, because we're not allowed to make any changes to the software versions from the primary of 2020 to the general.
Are they going to need to be made by the November election, these changes?
Well, we're able to get through an election right now. In a perfect world, yes.
This is going to be a different and bigger election in November than we're going to have in May.
Yes.
So it's equally important in November, I would assume, as it is next year's presidential year, correct?
Yeah, I agree with you.
So October is an awful late date to be doing that, since the primary is going to start, 30 days in advance? So it really needs to be resolved by late summer.
Yes, hopefully. But we are able to get through election. Like I said, none of these issues are affecting the tabulating or the actual recording of votes.
I have a couple of comments. The term "like," we had "like" for this. It's not really "like." It is in the contract. They have to be done. So "like" is not a word that I feel very comfortable with because I think we send the wrong message. My view is these changes have to be in place or else. And when we talk about workarounds, let's call it what it really is, additional costs that we have to incur to make it work because it's either going to take more labor, more materials, more something. So when we say workaround, we're really saying more cost than what we theoretically should be incurring. I understand for the May, but those are not things we'd want to incur long-term, I wouldn't think.
I agree. It's my understanding that we are not paying for any of these upgrades along the way. Insofar, we have the costs incurred as far as these workarounds are concerned have come with extra proofing that our staff is committed to the proofing. But we have not been charged for any of these workarounds by the product, but we are incurring the cost.
If the workaround involves people at the Board of Elections having to do something, that is a cost.
Exactly,
unless they're
yes.
reimbursing you, and I don't believe that's the case.
No.
So there is a cost.
Yes.
This is the point I'm trying to make. Go ahead.
We had the old system for a long time, but there was also a lot of workarounds that we've just gotten used to over the years. And we've kind of, forgotten that. But I will say that this new system will make it a lot easier on the poll workers, a lot more error-proof as far as bringing up the wrong ballot. I mean, we would have, when you have poll workers, across the entire county bringing up the ballots manually by referring to a piece of paper, we've had people, there's a lot of room for error in that. With the new barcode system, the people will get their correct ballot 100% of the time with no human intervention.
Well, I've worked the polls, and I've never seen that as an issue, but maybe I've just been lucky. But,
yeah, I mean, it's not something you would really see at the polls. It would come back in the balancing side of things, but.
Again, I feel we're brought into this so darn late, it's hard to give answers to the questions without putting you on the spot or putting us on the spot by having to address it at this late time. That is a concern. I would have felt much better if we'd had this conversation 60 days ago, and that these things had been caught 60 days ago. So we could, but it is my expectation, I think what Commissioner Lewis said as well, that these things will get solved at a reasonable time frame, and I'd certainly say by end of summer. And we need to hold the vendor accountable, and if they're not, then we need to honor the contract.
Yeah, that's why we built in that retainer. In order, they need to resolve these issues in order for them to get.
And I would ask one last thing, and I'll shut up, is our county administrator, I would ask that, and you're representing the board, I assume, since you're the only board member present, I'd like you to keep us involved and updated on the progress so that we don't have any surprises. This affects you, it affects the commissioners, it affects everybody in this county if we have a bad election. And I have some concerns.
I mean, I would echo that as well. And I'd really like to, since this is such a big issue and a big dollar, that we're putting out, the three of us and the administrator to be updated on a periodic basis. I think you're meeting with RBM on a regular basis, as I understand it, to just make sure these things get done in time, because I don't want to wait till October and find out, oh, we don't have some of these things done.
No, there's ongoing meetings.
Yeah, so if we could be informed of the progress on those issues as well, that would be greatly appreciated. Are all the board members supporting this?
Yes, they are.
All four board members?
They had other obligations.
No, I understand, but I just want to make sure all four board members are signed on to this agreement.
Split vote, it's all four of us.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So you represent the board, so you will make sure that county's kept in the loop as progress, as these items are eliminated, we will be made aware of that, so we can kind of go down that road with you.
Yes, I will.
And frankly, I've been in private sector, Commissioner Ben's been in the private sector, Commissioner Lewis, same situation. There's always going to be surprises. And how they react to those surprises is going to be important to our partnership. And that can occur in many forms, recommendations or whatever. So they have as much invested in this as you have in it, and as we have as a county, and our voters ultimately, and the state. So let's get through all these issues, and the issues that we don't know about today that I guarantee are going to come up between now and August.
Exactly.
Yep.
And how responsive they are to those issues says a lot about that relationship and that partnership. Okay. Done.
Right, and you're assuring us that the election in May is
Yes, absolutely.
safe and fine.
Because early voting starts tomorrow?
It
Yes,
starts
it does.
tomorrow.
Yes, it starts
Okay, that's what I
tomorrow.
thought.
Right, that's right,
Registration ends
yes.
tonight at 9 PM because you can register
Yeah.
online.
Right, and then, so the machines that will be used for early voting are all out at the Board of Elections Center.
That's correct, yes.
They're ready to go.
They're ready to go.
And when I work the polls in May, I'll be a happy guy, right?
Yeah, it should be a lot easier for the poll worker side of things. It's really, there's no activating each machine now. It's pretty much just turning each machine on and hitting yes, today's election day.
And the closing of the elections will be more efficient. In the past, it has taken 15 minutes to shut down each machine, and then driving back from Harlem Township takes a long time. We'll be getting our results in faster with this new equipment.
Oh, that'll be good.
Yes.
That's great, yeah, that's
Yes.
a big factor,
You'll be
too.
seeing a difference.
Yes.
I hope you understand our concerns, and we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we're just trying to make sure that we fully understand it well enough that we are in it together rather
Right.
than separate
Yeah.
votes, so. Okay.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-319. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye. Thanks for your hard work, thanks for your
thank you.
presentation.
Thank you, Commissioners.
That brings us to administrator report.
Good morning, Commissioners. The only thing I wanted to report is we had a very successful kickoff meeting with the Pre-Hospital Care Board last Thursday, and we've scheduled follow-up meetings on a monthly basis, and I thought it was well-received. I think, one of the fire chiefs mentioned that he was really excited that this is the first time that the fire-based EMS and the third service EMS folks were in the room together to talk about Delaware County EMS. So I thought it was a good meeting, and looking forward to more.
Thank you. Thanks for your leadership. I think you're first.
Okay.
You may not.
May not
Well,
get heard.
yeah, may not have anything.
The SEPCO annual meeting we had Friday, and SEPCO is our CCAO health insurance company. That it went well. The insurance company is in excellent shape. It's got good leadership. They're working on a number of tweaks, but then also a couple major strategic initiatives. The focus primarily is on wellness, just making sure that the people who are insured really get into a wellness program and reduce healthcare costs and improve their lives over time. Delaware County is lagging behind. We are not where we should be in terms of the participation rates. I know they're working hard to get that up. So that, again, went well. OCCO legislative meeting is tomorrow evening, reception at the State House. Community enhancement grants are Wednesday. We got that most of the day on Wednesday, I think, starting at 11. And we've received, 16 applications so far. So there's a number of our excellent community organizations that provide very good services to the community are applying. TID meeting is Wednesday, and that's it.
A lot going on.
Yeah, as always.
The
Commissioner
only thing
Merrill.
I'll add is CCAO board meeting tomorrow at 3, which I'll be in attendance, and that follows we walk down to the State House for the legislative meeting that will follow that. And that's always a good opportunity for us to have a conversation with our representatives. And indigent defense is going to be one of those issues, as we've
Yes.
mathematically, it's up to about 80%, but the goal is to get 100% reimbursed from the state, which they should be doing because of what it is.
Right.
Another thing I have is a shout out to our administrator. Over the weekend, we got a note regarding an issue, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but we had issue where we had some
Sobers?
sunken,
Sober.
I have it here somewhere, I just can't find it.
Yeah.
Here it is, right in front of me, thank you. I'm going to brag about it, he has to help me with the brag here. Philip Sobers emailed us all over the weekend, and we got a note from our administrator this morning that he's already on top of it, and that's very much appreciated, and I always appreciate when our residents alert us to things that we need to know about, because we can't always be aware, so that's all I have.
And our Justice and Public Safety Committee met. It's a state-level committee at County Commissioners Association of Ohio, and Commissioner Merrill just mentioned what we're doing right now is still working on an amendment on indigent defense. So indigent defense will be fully funded, and we're asked to contact our, this is going to be a House budget amendment, so we're asked to both all of us contact Representatives Jordan and Carfagna, ask them to sign on to the amendment. We think the amendment has a very good chance of passing. It's supported by several groups, a wider group than ever before. The Ohio State Bar Association, Ohio Judicial Conference, Ohio Prosecuting Attorneys Association, State Public Defender Committee, Buckeye Institute, Americans for Prosperity, and Policy Matters. So there's a broad ideological spectrum with those three groups, so that's good. And you'll be talking to them on Tuesday night too. We did take a vote to oppose a request by the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association to allow commissioners the discretion to adopt an alternative to establish a countywide emergency management agency, and this would contract with the county sheriff to manage a statewide EMA program. One of our members of our committee was a former EMA director. He indicated that such an arrangement might affect some emergency management performance grants, and so would end up costing the county more money, and even from our general fund. So we have voted to oppose this proposal, and it'll be coming to you on Tuesday.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right, tomorrow. And so a lot of it was a really good meeting. So. And we have a DKMM policy meeting tomorrow. I know Jane and I are going to that. So that's all I have, and we have no need then for
We do not have any
executive
need for executive today.
All right. We are adjourned.